As someone that has a single monitor setup, sometimes finding the right monitor can be difficult for me, especially after the LG 5K already ruined what a good resolution monitor looks like. Unfortunately, one huge drawback of the LG was that it had no support for Windows or for consoles. And as I'm building the ultimate all-in-one desk setup, the LG 5K just had to go. And that's where this new Omen Transcend monitor from HP solves all of my issues. It gives you the ultimate OLED experience for Windows, consoles, and even Mac. Just a few years ago, there really wasn't many options when it came to OLED monitors. When I purchased my LG 5K, there wasn't even a 4K OLED monitor available. And if you wanted a 4K screen, you either had to go with an IPS, VA, or jump up to an OLED TV. But now you have plenty of options to choose from, including this HP Omen Transcend, which is a 32-inch or 31.5 inches to be exact, QD OLED monitor that has everything that you need to build an ultimate desk setup. Starting with the port selection, and they definitely didn't hold back here, you have two HDMI 2.1s, one DisplayPort 2.1, a 3.5mm audio jack, two USB-C ports with up to 15 watts charging, three USB-A ports with up to 7.5 watts charging, and finally a USB-C port with 140 watts power delivery for the Mac. And the best part, it has a built-in KVM switch so that all four USB ports work with up to two of your devices by simply clicking the KVM switch in the back. Another cool feature of the newer monitors is also the split screen functionality, and with the HP Omen you can take it one step further and combine it with the KVM functionality to get what they call gear switch. Unfortunately, I can't test it because I don't have another PC, and you definitely need two PCs with the Omen gaming hub installed, but essentially you will not only get split screen, but you're also able to drag and drop files over and control both screens with a single set of peripherals hooked up to the KVM switch in the back of this monitor. The split screen though does work with Mac and PC connected, but you will have to use your MacBook keyboard and trackpad or get a separate pair of keyboard and mouse specifically for the Mac because you can't use the same ones through split screen. The price is also $1,300, which is really high for a 32-inch screen. I honestly would recommend getting an open box item if possible to save a few dollars, as it's also always on sale for $900. You can combine both of those and get a really good deal. I managed to snag mine for $730 pre-tax, and it basically came brand new. What are your thoughts on open box items? Is that something you regularly purchase? Because I will tell you that as someone that's always buying tech, open box items definitely make me a little bit happier knowing that I saved a few dollars and still got a really good looking item. And with the HP Omen, you also do get a backlight, which helps you with some bias lighting for those longer working sessions to ease some of the eye strain. It is also compatible with Windows lighting, so it can sync all of your device's lights if you have other devices to sync. From the factory, it also comes pre-calibrated, so you can expect the colors to look great and accurate if you're doing any sort of creative work. The monitor also does come with speakers from HyperX, so that you don't need to use a 3.5mm audio jack if you don't have external speakers or you don't have any headphones. They're not bad speakers at all, and they do get plenty loud for gaming and listening sessions. You also do get some presets that you can choose from, whether it's on the monitor settings or within the Omen gaming hub, but personally, I wouldn't move it from the HyperX gaming profile. That's the best sounding one to me. Here's a quick speaker test comparison with my Aura 4 console speakers that I have on my desk. By the way, make sure that you get subscribed if you're into building the perfect home studio. I'm a studio bum that buys a lot of home studio tech and then lets you know whether or not it's worth to purchase it before you go out and spend your money. Like with this Omen Transcend monitor that not only has a lot of ports but also has a design that really does fit into my single desk monitor setup. And I'm not going to lie, this is one of the thicker OLED monitors that I have seen, with a depth that's up to 5 inches, or roughly 5 inches at the thickest point. But even though it's a thick monitor, it doesn't really bother me because I never put it up against the wall, so I never really get bothered by the depth of it. What you will notice on this monitor as well though is that it does have white bezels, and my accessories are white, so it doesn't really look out of place and you don't really notice them once you are actually using the monitor, but it could be bothersome if you don't like to have a different color on your desk setup, or if you are someone that would notice the white bezels. The chin though definitely is noticeable, and it holds the Omen and HyperX branding as well as an NVIDIA G-Sync sticker, which doesn't bother me, but it does look like you can remove it. It does look like a sticker on the bottom right. On top of the monitor, you do have a grill for airflow, since the monitor does have some sort of OLED protection through cooling it down and cooling the screen down to avoid any sort of burn-in. The fans do spin up regularly for me, but they aren't really that noticeable. Here's a quick sound comparison of what they sound like compared to a mouse click from the Logitech MX Master 3. For maximum OLED protection and care though, I would definitely recommend that you hide any taskbars, run your Mac or PC at a lower setting, and switch it to dark mode. More info on the warranty later in this video and whether or not it covers burn-in. Aside from the fans, you also get a magnetic headphone top mount on the top left of the monitor, which I found cool at first until I realized that the headphones would be hanging in a place where they can hit the top of the screen. I tried it once and noped out of there in a couple of seconds to avoid any sort of potential future damage to my monitor. And being that the screen is a glossy QD OLED, you can definitely notice any sort of touches and fingerprints that you might leave, and it'll leave smudges on your monitor. I always feel like the glossy screens are more exposed than the ones that have a matte film, but that could just be me. The monitor does come with a stand that is height and tilt adjustable. It's disappointing that a monitor that costs $1,300 doesn't have other functionality within the stand like rotation or pivot, but luckily if you don't want to use the stand that comes with it, this monitor is VESA compatible. There was a lot of confusion around the VESA compatibility, including for myself, because it didn't look like it was compatible at first. The spec sheet says that there's a bracket included in the box, but I didn't find anything extra. And to add to the confusion, there's actually an HP team response on the Best Buy Q&A and a review saying that they returned it because it's not VESA compatible. But now there's another answer that says it is, and people found out that you just have to remove the plastic from the back. So thank you to everyone that took a risk on breaking their monitor to get the VESA mounting holes. I was debating returning it because of the stand after using it for the first couple of months, but now it's VESA mounted to my desk setup and I no longer need to return it. And with all the connectivity that it has, I was able to hook up my 2 consoles, my MacBook, and now my PC all connected to this single monitor. With the 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, I can get up to 4K 120Hz on a PS5 and a maximum of 1080p on the Switch. While the 140 watt USB-C, I can connect my 16-inch MacBook Pro and charge it with the full 140 watts, and it's enough to keep it charged even through the more harder productivity sessions. The maximum I'm able to get from this monitor on a Mac is 4K 165Hz. With my work Mac, that's an M2 Pro. With my personal one, I can only get up to 4K 120. That leaves a display port for my PC that can get up to 4K 240Hz through my 7800 XT graphics card, so it can drive this monitor just fine. And you might have noticed earlier that I mentioned that you do lose out on one USB-C port with the amount of peripherals you can connect, and that's because to use the KVM switch, you need that second USB-C port to also be connected to the second computer. You can also switch up in the settings whether you wanted to have it set up with an HDMI port instead of a display port as well, in case you have 2 different PCs and you aren't fully utilizing the USB-C 140 watt port. The only downside to all of these ports, the massive power brick that comes with it so that it can drive everything and provide power to everything. But other than that, the screen is just beautiful. You get those vibrant OLED colors that are perfect for gaming and watching content. And when it comes to the resolution, 4K at 150% scaled, which is what my PC looks like, is going to look great, and the text looks great as well. Let's be clear though, it's definitely not the LG 5K quality, but there really isn't any noticeable text fringing, at least not to my eyes. In fact, even on Mac at 1080p, the text clarity is really great and doesn't really make me miss the 5K quality all that much. However, you will be locked to 1080p on Mac if you want that crisp text. I have found that anything outside of that doesn't really look all that great, especially if you're already used to better screens, which means that you do get a larger display, but you also do lose out on the screen real estate because now you're on 1080p rather than being at 5K resolution or the 1440p. You have to remember though that the majority of monitor makers will try and make them Mac compatible, not made for Mac. And honestly, at the amount of use I will get out of this monitor with my Mac, I'm okay with it just being compatible. I can use my Mac as a secondary screen if it ever bothers me, but in reality, I'm still a one monitor desk setup type of guy, so I'm gonna use this monitor as my main one. But that doesn't mean that this monitor doesn't really have any drawbacks, and by that I mean that there's also the drawback that the Omen Gaming Hub is actually not available for Mac. This means that you're limited to using the HP Display Center app for Mac, which it doesn't have the full feature set that comes on Windows, and it also doesn't allow you to update the firmware on this monitor, which there was a lot of talk at the beginning that pre 1.06 version for this monitor, there was a lot of issues, including the KVM switch. So definitely you would need a PC to update it if you don't have one already. And if this monitor comes with another sort of firmware that's below the 1.06. I bought mine from Best Buy and it already came fixed, so I didn't have to deal with any of that. You also have to make sure to take care of the display because there's also mixed answers on the 3-year warranty and whether or not it covers burn-in. I actually have yet to see or experience burn-in on any of my devices that I use that are OLED, but you always do have to be careful. Again, dark mode and no taskbars are definitely your friend here. And then there's the QD OLED display technology. It's not new news, but one downside that I noticed right away is how purple the display looks whenever there's lighting on the opposite side of the display. This unfortunately also includes my monitor light bar that does light up part of the display and it turns a little bit purple. The simple solution to this is go back to light mode, but I honestly would rather have a non-burned in screen than have perfect blacks whenever I'm just doing some productivity work. When I am gaming or watching content, I turn the light bar off and you don't really get that same purple screen effect. But with a glossy display, it will always have and always will be prone to all of the reflections. This means that it's more difficult to have lamps across the room from the monitor, or have the windows open, or have the monitor across from any sort of light. And that's not unique to this monitor, but it's still worth mentioning because it is a glossy display. My LG 5K was also a glossy display. But are all of these deal breakers? To me, no, as I'm sure you read from the title, this is going to be the ultimate monitor that I'm going to be using for my single monitor desk setup. It has all the connections that I need to keep all of my systems set up. It's an OLED monitor, so I also get the vibrant colors that come with it, and there's not really much else that I can ask for. What about you? Is this a monitor that you're picking up this year, or are you going with a different brand instead? Let me know down in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching. Click here to watch another one of my videos, and I will catch you in the next one.